The most incredible thing has happened. It's incredible. Yeah, right. Lyme disease. Yeah, again. So sick of this. Yeah, it just, just validates my point. Civilization is dead. I mean, really, when you can't fix little simple things, stupid little parasitic thing, and blah, 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 and all you have to do is eliminate a few deers, you can't get it done. So, just, yeah. I mean, it's just so stupid. So many, I mean, I should just do Lyme disease videos. Just keep trying to explain to people, billions of dollars in crop damage, millions of dollars anyway a year in, landscaping, value destroyed. Can't have a garden in the garden state, that kind of thing. And, as an extra bonus, yeah, you give people this nasty, horrid, terrible, cruddy, crappy disease. Yeah. Anyway, I have a mediocre, in the middle version of it this time. It's a headache one, mostly headache, chills and such. But it's not as bad as the bad one. But anyway, I just don't want to do this whole penicillin thing again and all this bullshit. Alright, I'm just complaining, but I wasn't in a very good mood anyway. Just really, yeah, fuck. So anyway, just comments. I did want to respond to a few assholes. Mostly. So I guess that's what I'll do. Okay, please do a video on your thoughts on Bernie Sanders now. Yeah, Bernie Sanders, I hope he wins, but, it's all the same shit. I mean, he's basically a warmongering Jew. He's way too sympathetic for the welfare whores and the, let's put some more Mexicans into the country, all that kind of shit. So, he's useless in a lot of ways. I mean, I like that he's got some sense about rich people. We don't need rich people. But he seems to think we do need a bunch of poor drug addicts, bum, cruddy, shitty slime on the streets. And I don't think we need any of that shit at all. Yeah, no, no, sorry, no sale, in that sense. So what am I going to, I mean, the war is the big one, right? If you got to be anti-war, and he's not anti-war enough for me to be enthusiastic. And I don't think anything else, I don't know whether he can get anything else done, I don't know. I mean, he's low on principles. Rhetoric, but the principles have to be vacuous if you can justify killing people somewhere else, and then you're saving criminals on the streets here. What's the it's fucking idiotic. Let's save criminals so we can buy some more bombs to blow up people who never did you a damn harms in your life. What the fuck, idiot? Fuck you. Obviously I'm not in a very good mood, so it wasn't a very good time to ask me for my thoughts on Bernie Sanders. Yay Bernie, win Bernie. He's better than the rest of the warmongering, manga-less, monstrous pieces of goddamn crap that are running for president, but fuck this, we should be able to do better than this shit. There's my thoughts on Bernie Sanders, is he still ain't nearly good enough. We should be able to find, in a country of 400 million motherfucking cunts, we should be able to find something better than this to run for president. Yeah, so I suppose that's Alright. Launching pad. Women handle bleeding every month. Oh, they handle it, so that means it's not at all a problem. It's okay with you if we could do a little foreskinectomy and give you a period every month, you'd say, yes, thank you. I can handle it. No big deal. I mean, it's just, what a asshole. Sorry, you're an asshole. Were you dropped as a baby? I already know you got beat with an ugly stick. And this has come from somebody who doesn't have an icon. Yeah, well, I don't know what kind of stick you got beat with, but I think we'll just say go away. No, for some reason I can't say go away. Hide this user's comments on this channel. So that's what they've turned blocking into. And I don't want to hide his comments. I want to instantly delete his comments. How about that? I'll just delete it. Fuck it. Fuck this, idiots. Make a real argument or fuck off. I mean, this isn't that complicated. A real argument, you got to know the difference between a real argument and just complete crap. You know, you just want a graffiti on Gary. Okay, well, you got to pay to do that. Anyway, gobbledygook. Gary constantly disagrees with every utterance from everyone, from anyone. Well, I just don't. I mean, from anyone you mean? Yeah, I don't care if they're what? My mother? Yeah, I don't. Even when they're agreeing with him. Well, if they were agreeing with me, then I wouldn't be disagreeing, so I don't think you know what you're talking about. And I guess that's why your name fits you, gobbledygook, because it seems that that's all you got in your brain. Usually people only agree with him once he beats them into submission. Well, again, I don't care whether they agree with me. Submission, beating, I just don't care. So if you think I'm monitoring success and failure rates in terms of my counter-arguing to people I think are assholes, well then you're an asshole. And one example would be nice. Give me one example of some instant you say this is the circumstance where I beat somebody into submission. Go ahead, show me that individual. To see Gary interact with other humans is to see Gary at his worst. Well, whatever. Maybe, who cares? This is not useful commentary. Not on the subject, that's for sure. Too long and gross to watch, no pun intended. Well, sorry, no rationale intended either. Some kind of gibbly gobbly goo. Whoa, go jump off bridge, get over, I don't know, fuck you. Gary did not evolve personally in the meantime. Gary did not evolve personality in the meantime. This Don Quixote is fighting against straw men. You're straw man, I guess, Kleenex guy. I don't know what this icon represents. Main Kippy Jakarto. I don't know what this is. Mirrors, whether infant boys or girls or infants with ambiguous genitalia, oh dear, deserve protection from unnecessary harm, which is forcible infant genital reductive. Somebody's reductiving? Genital reductive. I guess we should go find out what the hell that is. Reductive. Somebody's giving somebody reductive surgery. So again, this is another guy who thinks the foreskin is somehow a player in the real game. Yeah, really. You need a bigger dick to urinate with. But well, I mean, just stupid. I mean, really, this is too stupid. But we'll go find out how, if it gets even dumber. Just for fun. It has no content. Well, no surprise there. No content here. Let's see. What? Oh, reductive. Okay, genital reductive surgery. So that's how he thinks it. The human right is indivisible? Yeah, I don't think so. And applies to both sexes. I don't even know. Again, this combining subjects is just so stupid. Penises are not vaginas. And there's just no point in not separating these subjects. Do you support the right for a female infant to then listen to my whatever aunt? She is a live mirror for you, and she exposes the hypocritical false dichotomy double standard of female surgery is bad, male surgery is good. Well, I guess why? She says it was good for her. I mean, the presumption is that female genital mutilation is exactly that. It's for no other purpose than to fuck with a girl's sexuality for a negative purpose, to control women. And there's absolutely no evidence that any man ever had his son circumcised to make him less of a man. She is proudly circumcised, her words. Well, again, see, you want to, if she's too stupid to understand the difference between a vagina and a penis, I guess she shouldn't be talking about any subject, right? I mean, they're pretty obviously different things, and to sit there and call it the same surgery, frankly, it's just idiotic. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, it's the definition of idiot. When you can't tell the difference between a vagina and a penis, when I show you the two pictures and you think they're the same organ, you're too fucking stupid. That's the definition of too fucking stupid. So, grandma's too fucking stupid, idiot. From, let's see, unclean part. She does not miss anything. Well, that's for sure. Which makes perfect sense. The major part of the clitoris is located within the female body. She directed my attention to Google it. Orgasm in renally circumcised African women. Female circumcision does not reduce sexual activity. These aren't links, Einstein. You could post the links, idiot. That's another strike against you when you don't know that you can just post these as links. You know, that's more evidence that you're not too bright. Yeah, this isn't my subject, okay? So what business is this is mine? I have nothing to say about this idea of enhancing female sexual behavior. I don't think that's what they're doing. I mean, the rhetoric of the people doing it implies some other agenda. And it really has nothing to do with the idea of what is a foreskin and is it terribly useful. Besides in collecting numerous amounts of funguses and bacteria, does it do anything else that's critically important? And I think the answer is no. That's my opinion, fuckhead. And I'm allowed to have an opinion, fuckhead. Oh, shit. Alright. No, you can just go away. We don't need you, and we don't certainly need Matilda. Let's see what he says. Gary could write a short pamphlet. Well, you could say that to every single person on earth. Why don't we just have the president write a short pamphlet? Everybody just write short pamphlets, please. Dawkins, deGrasse Tyson, all these. Yeah, just write short pamphlets. We don't need to do any of this back and forthing, arguing. None of that shit means anything. I don't know. So this is all this teeth gnashing. Again, most of my videos, this is teeth gnashing. Theatrics, is that what this is? Most of my videos are nothing less than this, nothing more, same thing. So that's your description. That's being fair. That's making a fair, that's a fair description. I don't think it's fair. I think it's nonsense. Fuck off. I've asked you politely to fuck off, but you won't do it. So just waste your time typing and I'll delete your comments. How's that? You make no other choices. And the same to you. Can you just type gibberish? Most of it's not worth reading, so just stop. I'm uninterested. Processed meat causes cancer, and meat probably does too. World Health Organization. Yes. Is that the subject of this video? No. So why are you posting it on this video? Oh, that's right, but you just don't give a shit. Yeah, you just don't care about playing by any kind of rules at all, do you? That's right. No, a little respect? No, you can't offer that. All right, I like hearing your take on a thing called life. Well, who cares? I mean, good, fine, whatever, blah blah blah. Yeah, but you know what? Nobody can take that for meaning anything. I mean, it's nice that maybe you send me a personal message, but I don't know, when you got to say that publicly, I guess it. Good for me, alright, fine, it's a little push, a little boost, you know, but, well, I guess it's okay, it just doesn't, you know. See, I mean, this was good. Well, see, I sort of know this guy, so I say, okay, well, that's nice that, you know, he's satisfied with this one, so that's good. So, yeah, okay, it's not a terrible thing to post a positive remark, but, yeah, thank you. I guess I should have said thank you. Okay, why don't you like Thunderfoot? I don't know what this dotty O space means. Let's just delete that comment. Yeah, fuck him, idiot. He posted on the Stephen Molyneux video. I don't know. Sorry. Alright, man, gee, too much masturbation, want anything the nerves can overstimulate. That's the nature of the game. Yes, most women don't like the bacteria. Okay, well, most what we don't know apparently what anything knows. I mean, the scientific data is so fucking incomplete and underdone. I mean, last year when I was arguing this, I found some statistic where most of the men, when asked, "Are you circumcised?" they got the answer wrong. I mean, that's pretty pathetic, right? When men don't even know, circumcised men don't even know when they're circumcised, or vice versa. That's pretty funny, right? Right. So I don't even, what's the point of all this bibble babble about? I just say logically this thing seems to be pretty slam dunk, and I just don't see any problem just saying, yeah, there's a decision to be made. And yeah, if you're one of those people that loves nature, well, then it's some sort of decision for you when going the other way. And if you're somebody who figures, well, nature doesn't always know what the fuck it's doing, then you go my way. So, but I don't know. Like, again, if I had to make the decision tomorrow, I would still have a lot of anxiety over it. I'd probably have to have a drink as I press the button, right? Because you're deciding destiny, and who wants to do that? It'd be nice to give them both choices, but you really can't. Fuck. I mean, I've used this as another example. If I could do the same exact surgery, just as brutal, and to remove all the follicles from my child's face, hair follicles, I'd do it. It is like this fast, really fast. No acne, no beard. I'd say, yeah, okay, you don't really need this beard shit, right? This shit is useless. I mean, every now and then you want to feel badass, you put it, well, yeah, you can just glue one on if you really need it. But it really isn't a necessary thing. I don't, there's no way I think my kid would just be sitting there going, oh, I wish I could grow a beard. Nah, because most of the chicks don't like it. Everybody knows that, right? I mean, most chicks don't like men with beards. So, yeah, it's all win. So yeah, that would be an easy one for me. Because that's just, so that's, well, I'm just giving you context. There's lots of decisions I would make. And I don't think there's anything wrong with making them. Because the benefits would be really substantial. I mean, I would have really enjoyed living without hair follicles on my face. Yeah. And, I don't have as big a problem as some men, they got really coarse, harsh beards, but it's still annoying, especially as you get older, because it just gets more destructive to your skin. It's just nasty. So I guess if that was the subject, would these guys be this insane in saying you can't make that decision, it's irrational, you're mutilating your son, all this kind of rhetoric? I don't think so. Alright, so we'll get to the subject that she's talking about. She's posting links to the Canadian medical pediatric blah 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 and all that kind of stuff, and they're all kind of wishy-washy too, but I'll get to this study thing that this other asshole linked to, because it's just such rubbish. And the whole idea of the government providing a reservoir to put a bunch of nonsense into and allow people, and don't have a clear statement on this reservoir of nonsense, saying this is a reservoir of nonsense. We didn't read any of this shit. We're just collecting a bunch of crap, that propaganda that people have produced, and we're just going to put it in a reservoir for you. It's like taking Nazi pamphlets. Why don't the government store up some Nazi pamphlets and post them online? I mean, they should do this on other subjects. Do black people have lower IQs? Why don't they create a reservoir for all the homemade statistical data? I did an internet survey. I asked 15 black people, what highway is this? And only 10 of them knew what highway we were on. There, I've proven it, haven't I? Isn't that legitimate science? No, it's not. I'll get to that. He can always go live with Amish people. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Oh, that's the Stefan molecule. Yeah, they're always throwing those things in there. Well, I don't think this means anything, right? Amish people have something to do with. I don't know what they have anything to do with. So yeah, just get rid of that garbage. Didn't go away. Still here. Now it's in. Oh, look at that. It's old hack. Gary, miss you, man. Oh, I miss you too, buddy. Yeah. Well, I guess I sort of do. But, you could make videos and I wouldn't miss you. It's that simple, idiot. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'm hard to miss because, you just watch the videos, basically the same thing as talking to me. Pretty much. Yeah. Anyway. He did provide evidence. You just denied the evidence, tried to make out you know more than a government health website. See, so the guy, so this is, this other stupid, whatever he is, rat face, mole rat, numbly numb. He's trying to make out that this is some sort of good little thing the government's doing, is that it's collecting all this raw, unscrutinized crap and shoving it into a bucket and then saying to the public, here, we're the official government website. Yet, but if you go 3 subdivisions down from our officialness, we have a bucket full of shit. And if there's ever an argument you want to make, well, you could always pull some kind of crap out of that bucket that we never even looked in, and use it as a credible argument. Because look, we've put it in the bucket, and it has to be credible if we put it in the bucket, right? But of course, it's not credible because it's a bucket of shit. I mean, really, it was in a bucket called. What's the word they use? That was a technology thing. What's the word? Biotechnology or something. So they're calling circumcision was in the category of biotechnology. I mean, that's how this was all full of shit. This is how you know this is all full of shit. But anyway, I will get to that. Yeah, it's not a government health website in the sense that it is not a scientific research, whatever you want to call it, that has it all been sanctioned by any government health organization. So no government professionals looked at it and said, oh, this is good stuff. It's just crap that they shove into a pile because somebody artificially claims some sort of affiliation with a hospital in Belgrade or something. I mean, it was some little pissant country. And these aren't even doctors. So you're telling me this is the way we should do science? Is that we let anyone just scribble on a piece of paper, say I did something, provide no reference materials, that is no evidence they even did what they say they did, and publish it. Well, I don't think that's a very good idea. Gary feigns ignorance in his videos over and over. Everything he says has been addressed at some point and debunked. So that's Matilda again, of course. There's been no such thing as taken place, and you're just an aggressive liar to say any such thing. Proof: 1. Show me one video, one response video, one video online where my points have been addressed and debunked or responded to in any coherent way. Oh, that's right. That doesn't exist. Liar. Okay, so he did provide. No, it's not a government health website. So, see, this is the danger of this shit. And this numbly numb guy is going to defend this shit. And there's the evidence right there. The guy made the comment stating it's a government health website, as if it's a credible piece of science. And it's not. Anyway. Alright, link to article related to FLism entitled, well, I don't know if I need that. That's some other subject. Ken fired in the sty, doesn't matter. I don't know what this was. He's citing references. Am I calling attention to numbly numb, a commenter, and his quote mining from Wikipedia, specifically in the physics video? Yes, that's a good thing for me to do. Inaccurate to say that I am against impositions. I am certainly for lifeboat impositions. I don't know. So, I mean, it's good that you're quoting me, but I don't know whether you think you're doing that in a negative or positive way, because I never know which side you're on. Oh, that's Fireball Fitness. That's different than Ken. fire in the sky. Oh, okay. Very confusing sometimes. So he's probably a good guy of some kind. Anyway, this go green thing I don't really understand. This is like a few other people. They talk in too many you know, triangles and such, and I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Alright, so here we go. This is Numbly Numb's rationalization. So we'll deal with this. I didn't read the whole thing yet, but it doesn't really matter. So his initial comment did get some responses from these other people. PubMed is a database of research papers and literature run by the United States National Library of Medicine. Right, it's run by the NIH, the National Health Institute, right, or National Institute of Health, or whatever it is. And then the library is a subdivision of that, and then this stupid whatever is a subdivision of that, and then this other subdivision of technology thing is the subdivision of that, and that's the category where this stupid article was. So it's 4 subdivisions beneath the National Institute of Health. Right. But as many people here pointed out, and as I pointed out, quite obviously, it's a ludicrous on its abstract is ludicrous. We haven't even, you know, if we could get the actual questions they asked men online, or see the advertisements, wouldn't that be, you don't think we're entitled to that if you're going to publish something as a meaningful piece of crap, that somehow we should have access to this, we advertised. They advertised to get people to respond. Well, shouldn't we be allowed to see the advertisements? And if the advertisements are something like, hey, have you been brutalized by the medical industrial complex and have your foreskin mutilated? That this really wouldn't be any kind of useful survey data collected? You know that's critical to any value here. And the very proposition of asking circumcised men to comment on what they have lost is idiotic. It's insane. And they admitted, minorly, you know, which was weird because they said that this somehow skewed the data, but they didn't give us any, there was no indication. They just said all the men said this, all the men said that. They gave us no percentages of what number of men said what, which was also just so evidence of non-science. No percentages whatsoever. So if it was 51%, then you said all the circumcised men said, and that no scientist would do that. But more importantly, they said the men who got circumcised later in life, probably due to some sort of malfunction of some kind, were 68% satisfied with the surgery. Well, what are you going to say? Yes, they had a brokenness, they attempted to fix it, 68% of them say, okay, it got fixed. That's not bad, right? Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. Just an idiotic piece of rubbish. So it isn't science. It doesn't. Nobody needs to have a reservoir of Hitler's propaganda. I mean, the government shouldn't be collecting it anyway, and they certainly shouldn't be collecting it without labeling it and saying this is some absolute rubbish we found on the internet. I mean, call it what it is. Don't give anybody any reason to cite it. And the only good news is nothing with any credibility cited the stuff being listed in this database. But I'm just saying, the fact that it's there and they don't put any warning on the page saying this is absolute rubbish, it hasn't been scrutinized by anybody with an IQ. You don't see a problem with that? Well, I do. When you said yeast was a bacteria, it was a response to someone saying they didn't think you could name a single bacteria that lives on the human body. When you said yeast was a bacteria, it was a response to someone saying that's not true. But regardless, I didn't say yeast was a bacteria. I said... yes, right. You said listing bacteria that were causing. No one asked me this single bacteria, but it doesn't matter. The point is yes, I responded as saying yeast because I'm saying what is the most common microbe on the penis. So, like I said, my brain was thinking bacteria, microbes, all the same thing. So the fact that I categorized them differently, it was the only reason why I said it. But it doesn't really matter. The point is why would you find it necessary to correct as if it means something. It doesn't mean anything in the context of this conversation. I mean, for me to call the infecting agent a bacteria or to call it a fungus, I don't think makes the penis any more appetizing. Anyway, I made that contribution partly to vindicate the person that you thought you were talking down a peg. Well, I wasn't talking to them, so so you're saying that they should win an argument because they say something. Well, name me the exact bacilla that is infecting the penis. Why should I have that list in my head? Why should I have a list of all the different species of bacteria that might live on a penis? Why should anyone assume that's in my brain, and that somehow I don't understand what circumcision is if I can't make a list of the bacteria that live on penises? You think that's a valid counter-argument to circumcision good, circumcision bad? No, fuck you. You really are a little scuzzy, weaselly fucking mole rat. So I wasn't trying to take anybody down a peg. I was just saying I can have an opinion on fucking circumcision without having the you know, flora and fauna properly xylomized. Fucking idiot. Motivated reason was that you claimed in the previous video that I don't know anything about biology. I claimed, in generally speaking, that the argument you're making, that would be my indication that you don't understand it in principle. You understand it in some sort of silly, idiotic way where, oh yeah, all these symbiotic relationships aren't still somehow parasitic. And I would argue that no, most of them are still parasitic, and none of this symbiosis is ever 50-50. It's never, everybody just gets happy pills from each other, and there's no downside. Now there's still plenty of liabilities to all that shit. Despite the fact that I only stated factual information for which I backed up with evidence via links. Well, again, is it factual for you to say pre-med is a database of research papers and literature run by the United States National Laboratory of Medicine, and to say nothing else? To not qualify it as, well, it's completely unpeer-reviewed nonsense. It's just propaganda papers published by any asshole. You don't even have to be a goddamn doctor to publish. Huh? The silliest, basic, worst pseudoscience quite obviously can get in the database? Do you have any evidence? Look, I'm just saying, give me the evidence, okay? Show me how this fucking goddamn survey wasn't completely motivated by agenda. Show me the ads they used, and show me the questions they asked. And then explain to me how they came up with that preposterous summation of a conclusion. It's idiotic, and you know it. It's a piece of rubbish. It's a piece of garbage. It shouldn't be in any database that has anything called credibility above it, and you goddamn know it. It should be labeled as garbage. It should be labeled as trash we found on the internet. Anyway, despite the fact that I only stated factual information, well, again, it's not a fact that the word mass should have anything to do with, again, so we'll get to that argument. So given the circumstances, I thought it only fair to point out that they're rather significant, not to mention obvious. Okay, so you're saying that there's a significant, I thought it only fair to point out that rather significant, not to mention obvious error of fact. Well, again, so he says it's this obvious error of fact that the word yeast somehow means it's not a bacteria. Well, I don't think it's an obvious mistake. I think a lot of people don't. If you ask generally people on the street, is yeast a bacteria? They'll say yes. If you say, is yeast a fungus? They might get that wrong. I mean, their tendency might be to think that yeast is a bacteria, not a fungus, because, again, most associations with funguses on molds are even more negative than bacteria. But anyway, who cares? It doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to measure myself against that. The fact that I made that mistake, and again, I'd argue I don't know if I really even made the mistake, in the sense that I don't know technically that yeast is, as I stated, it's sort of a missing link microbe. Okay, it doesn't really fit in any category great. It's not really like funguses, and it's not really like bacteria. But anyway, didn't you once say yourself that if someone claims superior knowledge in a given area that they should expect to be duly scrutinized? Well, again, I wasn't claiming superior knowledge on what kind of crap grows on penises. I was merely asserting that it's a fact that crap grows on penises. That if you fold a bunch of human skin over itself, crap will grow in there. That's a fact. That was my assertion, jackass. I never said that bacteria made up 90% of the mass of the human body. Right, so here's his technical evasion of that claim. The comments seem to have disappeared for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't delete it, and I couldn't find it either. So I'm going to say, yeah, I wonder why it's gone too. But I know I didn't say that, because I know that's not the case. I said something like, so here we go. Bacteria make up 90% of the living cells, which make up the mass of the human body. So that seems to me, now you're just playing word games, okay? And that's exactly what's wrong with that science. The science that says this kind of stuff is because they say it in a way that's clearly and easily misunderstandable by anyone, the common person. When the common person sees the word mass, they associate that obviously with the weight of the body. Okay, so you got 90% of the weight of the body. It's clear that that connection has been made. They should never have put the word mass in this sentence. It was totally unnecessary and superfluous to the point being made. They just should have said that bacteria in numbers. Okay, they should have used the word number somewhere. The number of bacteria. And they didn't do that. They just used the word mass. So you're not telling me that's not this sentence. If I gave this sentence to the average person, they wouldn't misunderstand this to say, oh, we're mostly bacteria. When no, by mass, you're not anywhere close to mostly bacteria. That's really not the same thing as saying it represents 90% by weight or volume. Well, mass is pretty much weight and volume, so I disagree. It is pretty much saying that. I meant that 90% of the DNA molecules of our bodies. Oh, see, here we go. Now we go DNA molecules. Amazing. I meant that 90% of the DNA molecules of our bodies, many of which are vital to the day-to-day survival, are bacteria. Whether they're vital to day-to-day survival might be another question. I might claim that's not exactly true. I mean, the chemistry they produce might be vital, but I don't know if you need it every day. So day-to-day survival, that might be correct. You might be able to live without them for a week. But anyway, so now we're just doing DNA molecules. So now we're just talking about nucleuses of cells. And so most of the nucleuses in your body, he's going to say something silly like that. Most of the nucleus, well, most of the bacteria don't have nucleuses, so you can't even go by that. But again, there's just more, what's the point of this? Okay, the truth is that the bacteria are much smaller than developed mammal cells. So what's the argument? Yes, there's more in number, but by volume, it's a cupful, okay, of your body weight is these bacteria. So what's wrong with adding the context that this doesn't mean that most of your body is bacteria? Because it's not. The fact that there's more bacteria in a cup of bacteria this big has more living cells in it than my whole body, why don't you just say that? And it would be, as it should be, completely meaningless to anybody. Who the fuck could care? But anyone trying to make some kind of point that we're somehow intimately involved with bacteria, and we're not. Most of the bacteria, I would argue, in our body is not doing us any good. And the ones in our gut, it's 50-50. Half of them are doing one thing and the other half are doing something else. And, you know, so what you're gaining from some, you're losing from the others. That was the point I was trying to say. I was stating it in the previous sentence of the same comment that you didn't bother to address. Well, I think I did, but whatever. Taken in context, it clearly has nothing to do with the size ratio of the human versus the bacteria cells. Well, again, it does. That's the entire point. It has everything to do with the size of the cells. And It's just an idiotic argument for you to say that somehow it would mean anything to write articles about DNA molecules. Because you know that's not how they're going to write it. They wrote it with the explicit purpose of the shock value. Most of your body is back to, you know, that's all they were trying to do, and that's all it is. So it's obviously agenda science, okay? And clearly you're defending the agenda, which is, I think bacteria are cool. And you're trying to do that just because you're trying to say, oh, it's not so bad having a bunch of funguses on your penis. When anybody rational would say, no, I think I'd rather not. In the draft science video, you claimed more than once that the moon doesn't spin. Oh, I love this one. I should have saved this for a draft science video, but I'll do it here. I just offered simple correction, politely stated. Well, I don't think it was politely stated, and I don't think it's a simple correction. I think it's an idiotic correction. Because by your definition of rotation, right? So these idiots have this theory that when things spin, you know, spin would be a better word, I think, to use, that this spin creates magnetism and all kinds of, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I think spin is important to aspects of gravitation. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying spin isn't important, or even rotation. But rotations that take 26 days or something, those rotations would be irrelevant. And the rotations when you're facing something, see, the moon faces us, the same face of the moon, give or take 8 degrees, faces us all the time. Okay, and the other side we never see. And so the light hits both sides, but we never see but one side. And so as it spins around the Earth, technically you could say it's spinning once on its axis, because to stay facing us. But that's the same thing as saying you're spinning on your axis once a day. Because if you're standing up, if I stand up for a whole day and the Earth rotates, this idiot would say I just spun on my belly button axis. Now, does that sound realistic that I just spun on my axis? Does it seem sensible to describe it that way? I don't think so. I don't think it's a fair way to describe what rotation or spin is to say that because it's relativistic spin, relative to the sun, I spun, but not relative to the Earth. So, I mean, you know, play a word game again. And the whole argument in the physics, again in the physics video, is about spin creating some kind of gravitational or magnetic force. And obviously those very slow spins couldn't possibly be generating any of that. A spin that takes 26 days is not going to generate any magnetism or any kind of effect. It's ludicrous. It's too slow relative to the forces involved. So it can't be meaningful. So it had no relevance in any way whatsoever. And so your little snarky point that somehow the moon does spin, it doesn't it doesn't, if you want to be fair to explanation. Again, every tree on Earth, this asshole is saying it's spun on its axis every day. It spins on its axis every day. Do you think, yeah, the top of the roots flip upside down and the top of the tree goes down, it spins on its axis every day. Is that really realistic? Is that a realistic way to describe what happens? I don't think it is. Alright. Really, just fuck off, Numbly. I'm really just so sick of your bullshit. I just offered simple correction, politely stated. Well, it's not a correction in the first place, in my opinion. And again, I don't think there's anything polite about you showing up to say something totally irrelevant to the video, which is this spin wouldn't have any meaning whatsoever in the context of the conversation. The reason why planets and spherical masses in the universe spin should be obvious. Well, good. All right. You have the obvious answer. Would you rather no one ever pointed out unambiguous scientific errors on draft science? Unambiguous? This error is ambiguous. I'm sorry. Defining something's axis is a little bit ambiguous in the real universe, because then we get back to these relativistic positions, and what's your real velocity? What's your real direction? Which way are you really going at what velocity in the real world? Would be better to get all personal about it, about what you are purely objective matters such as whether or not celestial bodies rotate. Well, again, this rotation argument gets a little more complex, I think, when you have to basically argue that everything connected to something rotating is essentially rotating itself on its own axis. And that gets a little bit complicated. Okay, you don't want to concede that's a little bit of a complex perceptual duality problem. To say that the rock, to say Mount Rushmore is spinning on its axis, you don't see how that creates a little bit of a disconnect. It doesn't sound right, doesn't seem right. Might be in some way true, but I'm not even sure if it is. I don't know if the molecules actually do rotate. So on the axis, the parts that make up, if I put a diamond, it doesn't rotate on the axis. Well, whatever. Rotate. And where did I quote mine anything from Wikipedia? The accusation of quote mining is pulling straight out of thin air. No, your other corrections have been related to Wikipedia quotes, so I can't remember all of them off the top of my head right now, but I think it's a fair accusation. I have said nothing manipulative. Well, I disagree, and that will be plainly understood by anyone who reads my comments in their entirety. Well, again, the entirety of your comment on the pre-med database is PubMed is a database of research papers and literature run by the United States Library of Medicine. It is not a fake website, quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite of fake, yet it creates a reservoir for basically fake research. Right? So you're not saying there's no manipulation in how you're saying that. There's no that's just the plain truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Well, I say it's lacking a lot of context and lacking a lot of important context, so it can't be anything called the whole truth. It's a distorted truth, distorted by inadequate context. All of these motives that you have attributed to me are false. Well, says you. I stated very clearly that I see the merits of pre-circumcision, of the pro-circumcision argument. Yeah, I know, but you play both sides of the street, and you play it in what I consider a very manipulative way. So what can I argue? It seems to me the only reason why you said anything pro-circumcision was because you were basically obliged to by people pointing out that you seem to be arguing in defense of circumcision. I mean, in defense of non-circumcision. How this originally started is that I wrote a comment reacting to you saying something to the effect that of that uncircumcised penises smell and are disgusting. No, I didn't say that. I said they could smell and they could be disgusting. That's certainly the door that's opened. And what I argued is that circumcised penises don't have the bacteria, don't grow on them. That's what I said. My only bias in this argument has been about that point. So you're going to argue that uncircumcised penises don't smell worse than circumcised penises. Well, I think if they just did that simple test, we could get this over with and be done with it, because I just don't see, there's no agent to cause odor on the circumcised penis, and so the absence of an agent to cause odor has to make circumcised penises win. So they have to win the smell argument. If you're going to start talking about the condition of people's dicks in an inaccurate, well, you say it's inaccurate. I'm saying you've only made it that much more. You've only demonstrated by bringing up the word fungus that the problem of penis infestations is more substantial, because funguses are so much harder to get rid of than mere bacteria. So, I mean, mere bacteria, you just use a bactericide and they're dead and they're done. But funguses, got spores, you got all kinds of, they're harder to get rid of. So those kinds of infestations are even more difficult to deal with. And the most popular agent of infection on male uncircumcised penis is that the same stuff infecting my tongue, that yeast, whatever it is, C name. And it's always there, and it's never going away because you can't kill this shit. Anyway, then yeah, don't you think some foreskin owners are likely to speak up? Don't you think some foreskin owners are likely to speak up? Likely to speak up to what? I haven't in any way described anything that I would argue that's not true. So I mean, speak up to say what? Again, they keep saying things like my dick is 2 inches longer. They think their dick is longer. And what? I'm a bad guy and manipulative because I happen to hold these opinions and do my best to check them with the facts that are available to me. Give me a break. Well, no, I gave you breaks and you just keep doing the same shit. So I just think the argument's over. Whatever. We don't have compatible personalities. If I'm going to make an argument, I'm going to make an argument that in explicit language, not this inexplicit language. And again, if it just happened once, but it happens on every single, like I said, just the way you described PubMed. You didn't give an accurate description of it. Your statement is an endorsement of it, as if it is really not a fake website. In a sense, that's all it is. It just compiles a bunch of fake propaganda and gives it an undeserved credibility. Look, it's in this database. Well, that database doesn't mean anything because the database doesn't have a filter on it. The filter is, yeah, offer me any kind of silly, kind of idiotic nonsense, and I'll publish it as if it's a scientific paper. Is the truth anything different than that? I don't think it is. So anyway. Alright, so sorry to those people who were, find this not terribly interesting. So yeah, here he is. I'm just clarifying what exactly PubMed is. I'm not defending a particular paper. Well, again, you kind of have to. That's your obligation, because the paper was extracted from that database as if the source was an indication of credibility. I pointed to the guy who just did that. The guy who published the original video quite obviously thought because it was in that database it was credible science. So obviously it's been granted automatic credibility by being in this database, and this database can't possibly give it that credibility because it hasn't been scrutinized by anybody with any kind of fair agenda. So what's the point? You can't. It can be nothing but exactly what I described. If it's not fake, it's dangerous. If it's not fake, it's you can use some other derogatory word to say it's an outrage. It's an offense to science to sit there and put this garbage out as if it's a real science. It would be kind of better if it was a fake website. The very fact that the government is veiling absolute nonsense under its wing of we do serious science just makes them look bad. I just basically said if the CDC does this or some other thing does this, they just make themselves look like an incredible organization that can't do anything called rational science. If they're going to publish propaganda, they're going to look bad. Fact. And that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. The government giving sanction to bad science is not a good thing. And that's what you just defended here. So anyway, yeah, fuck you. It's a public archive. See again, but Premed is not a publisher of these articles. Well, of course it is. I mean, it's silly not to say it's not a publisher. It publishes the abstract. Well, see, that's the worst part, right? It doesn't publish the resource material. It just publishes the abstracts. But I mean, isn't that what most people are just going to read, is the abstract? So I'd love to see the whole article. I'd love to see exactly how silly these advertisements were for a survey on circumcision, and I'd love to see the idiotic questions they asked people online, and how exactly they found out whether any of these people actually knew what circumcision was. How did they authenticize the identity of any of the people in the survey? But we don't have access to that. I don't see that information anywhere. So they publish the abstract. They publish the claims, they don't publish the evidence. That's kind of the worst thing you can do as a scientist, isn't it? Publish claims without publishing evidence? Yeah. So I'd say it's a pretty unscientific website. And if the government's running it, bad on the government. Claude Pepper, I think, some senator, who I thought was okay, but apparently, yeah, it was just pork for his state. So the whole thing was created just to get pork for him, his home state. So yeah, they can run whatever 1962 software running their database of bullshit. Anyway, it really isn't worth all this much argument. So anyway, this Allen guy's giving, drilling old numbly number, a new asshole. So I don't know where it ends. No, I wouldn't call it nitpicking. Yeah, well, I think I would. If some piece of information is presented as an inaccurate way or a confusing way in an argument, it's entirely appropriate to clarify it. Well, I've clarified. I didn't do it rudely. Well, I think you did. So that's all I have to say about it. I think it is rude, especially when it's tangential to the subject of the video. So whether or not the moon rotates once every 26 days, even by all the wacky, whatever he is, Tesla theories, a 26-day rotation wouldn't be creating any significant energy or gravity. You'd have to be rotating faster than once every 26 days to create gravity. So it was tangential to the subject, and yeah, it was just shoved there like I'm going to play little truther games or whatever you're playing. And I'm just saying it's not even completely accurate. Again, it just opens a can of worms for which, I don't know, is there any point in opening? I mean, really, again, you're saying I rotate on my axis once every 24 hours. I don't know. I don't know if that's really true.